Oh yeah, I think they would love it. I think they
Mhm.
would wish that they had created themselves, because if people don't realize it, one of the biggest fights was against a.
All right, y'all. Welcome back to the Kevin Estopinal Show. We got a very special guest, I guess a new friend of mine, Mr. Isaiah Jackson, the author of Black in America, Bitcoin. What book did you write again, Isaiah? Tell me about it, man.
Oh yeah, yeah. Bitcoin in Black America came out 2019.
Okay. So you've been a Bitcoiner then, man.
Oh yeah, yeah. Been around since 2013. This will be 11 years in
Cool.
October. So yeah, been around a good while, and yeah, love the growth of the network, definitely.
11 years, it's like if when you just think back to like this past bear market, I guess we're in the bull market. I think we are, but if we
Yeah.
look back to this past bear market, man, I couldn't even imagine being in this 11 years. I mean, do you have PTSD? Are you okay?
Oh yeah, yeah, I'm all good. A lot of people that I've seen them come and go, but the main
Mhm,
thing is just keeping it simple, man,
mhm.
and you won't have too many problems.
Yeah, I really think back of all like the moves I've made with altcoins and stuff. And when you say keep it simple, I think like,
Mhm.
man, if I just would have allocated everything into like Bitcoin and Ethereum and not messed with all the other coins, I mean, who knows? By the end of the cycle, maybe my plan ends up being good. But are you kind of like a Bitcoin maxi? Or you kind of diversified?
Oh yeah. Well, I would describe myself as more of a freedom maximalist.
Hmm.
I'm somebody who, not just in the digital world, but even in the
Hmm.
physical world, just as much freedom as possible. I think Bitcoin gives you that best chance with money, and then with crypto, it gives you that best chance with technology. So,
Hmm.
whatever people choose to use, like I said, I love people to be free to transact anything for anything.
Yeah. Do you think it's kind of weird that like maybe it's a coincidence? Like the people that hate Bitcoin, the people that publicly speak against it are somewhat, have the most tyrannical kind of dystopian views and support certain policies. And it seems like when you go on the other side of the coin,
Mhm.
the Bitcoin people are all, the freedom people, the, free market. So why do you think that is?
Yeah, you know what's funny about the Bitcoin Maxi side? I always quote the Batman movie where it basically say, you either die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain. And
Hmm.
one thing I do hate is that I'm starting to see a lot of people who love Bitcoin starting to become the tyrannical people that they were fighting against. That's what the original ethos of Bitcoin was. We're pushing against financial tyranny because of the controls and the access. And then now you're telling people, hey, don't use anything else or don't think about anything else simply because of your own philosophy. So I think long term we'll see that play out where Bitcoiners become more hardened and other people will just do what they want. And I think that's
Hmm.
a better life to live. So, like I said, I love Bitcoin. That's what I focused on. But anything else, I mean, it's kind of like I always compare it to if you want to, you can go stand outside of a casino in Las Vegas and tell people, don't go inside. You might lose money. But it probably won't work. You know what I mean? But it is what it is. Like I said, I want people to be as free as possible.
Yeah, what's the saying too? Absolute power corrupts absolutely. And we see, the SEC come out that they want to, protect retail. And they always seem to be protecting us, Isaiah. Isaiah, do you feel protected? Do you feel protected right now?
Hell no. I mean, it's funny because they always do it under the guise of protection.
Mhm,
And, anybody that chooses security over freedom deserves
mhm,
neither. And
mhm.
I think that's a Ben Franklin quote.
Yeah.
Because over time, what you start to see is that if you choose security, you have to basically give up your rights in order for somebody else to take care of it for you. And that is the opposite of what freedom is that you have
Mhm,
to be able to take care of yourself, be self-sovereign,
mhm,
be able to help your family and others around you to support each other. That can't happen if you're just constantly giving up your rights just for
mhm,
some semblance of security, or, in my opinion, laziness. I mean, people will give up they'll give up their freedoms just because something is more convenient,
mhm.
and that's never been something that I've ascribed to.
Yeah, and once you give those freedoms, once you give those rights up, you don't get them back. And when we talk about these different debates on who's being oppressed or what freedoms are we losing, who's attacking what group of people, and when you think about it, what would you think, like the founding fathers? What do you think the founding fathers would have thought of Bitcoin? Like, you brought up Thomas Jefferson or Benjamin Franklin or George Washington. Like, what do you think they would say about Bitcoin right now?
Oh yeah, I think they would love it. I think they
Mhm.
would wish that they had created themselves, because if people don't realize it, one of the biggest fights was against a centralized Federal Reserve system. That's
Mhm.
why we had a country that started in 1776. We didn't have a centralized Federal Reserve system until 1913.
Mhm.
So you have to realize that there was a thought process that if we are going to have freedom, if we are going to have these rights that we say that we want, you can't have a system that is basically in control of the
Mhm.
people without them having any type of hand in the decisions that are made. And we've seen where that's gotten us. We've seen
Mhm.
usury, interest rates, inflation, everything bad that can happen because you've basically given up your rights. And that's why I love Bitcoin, is because it's a chance for you to just say no. Like, no,
Mhm.
I just don't want to use your system. I want to use
Mhm.
something else.
Yeah, it feels like, like a peaceful like revolution or like a
Mhm.
peaceful opt-out system. And it's weird
Perfect.
that it's
Yeah.
why is the message like so hard to get across? There's a lot of good people speaking the Bitcoin message, but this message of like, we don't want to destroy the dollar. We don't want the dollar to go to zero. Hell, we don't even want you to get rid of cash. We
Right.
just want, like what you said, the freedom to transact. Like if I want to send Isaiah money with no intermediary, like that, this really shouldn't be like a big hot button issue.
hmm Yeah, and if you think about when you talk about free markets, one of the best examples I see or I've seen is something like um, cosmetology or
Mhm.
cosmetic surgery, I should say. It was very hard to get; it was very expensive, and not a lot of people knew how to do it. And because of a free market, now it's super cheap and it's better
Mhm.
than ever. So when
Mhm.
you have a free market where people are you have the competition. Competition only makes people better. People find ways to make it cheaper, make it more efficient, and that's the reason why free markets should exist. These
Mhm.
capital controls that we have now, we have not seen. Nobody, me, you, our parents, grandparents, anybody alive has really ever seen a free market work. So they don't understand it. That's the main
Mhm.
thing, is that a lot of people push back against it because they think, no, 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 somebody's supposed to tell us that we're supposed to do this. Somebody's supposed to tell us or make a law, or supposed to, get on TV, and media is supposed to convince
Mhm.
us to do this certain thing. And it's like, no, 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 it's supposed to
Mhm.
be the opposite. You're supposed to be able to do what you want, and then they're supposed to basically go from there and see what people want, and then give you what you want. But
Mhm.
most people, they're happy just going along, getting along, and just, I just want to keep with the little bit I got, and nothing else. And I really don't like that.
Isaiah, that was probably me, what you just described. Like probably like most of my life, especially, when I was in college and stuff, that
Mhm.
was just kind of me. And then like when you think about the problems like we're facing in America today, whether it be inflation or, energy costs going up. And it's like I never really understood like the mechanics of why this is happening, why
Mhm.
inflation happens, why home prices go up.
Right.
I don't know what it is. Bitcoin, I guess they call it orange pilling. Like Bitcoin's like really woke me up to like how the Federal Reserve works, how money works, like what actually is money. I've
Mhm.
never really thought about
Right.
that. Like, what is the like what if you could define money? Like, what is it? For whatever reason, Bitcoin opened my eyes. So it's like so much bigger than like, hey, me and Isaiah are making some money in Bitcoin. Like it's bigger than that. And I
Mhm.
think people are starting to see it. Do you think that?
Absolutely. And I think a lot of people are waking up, and you're right. When you start learning about Bitcoin, you go into what is money. You go into philosophy, you go into history, you go into physics,
Mhm.
cryptography, you go into, technology, all these different subjects and different disciplines that help you understand why Bitcoin was created.
Mhm.
And one of the things, like you stated, when you were in college, same thing with me. When I was younger, I didn't understand what money was. I was in college when the 2008 financial crisis happened, and I
Me
had no
too.
clue why gas prices went through the roof, why food doubled, why I'm sitting here, in college, you're already as broke as you probably ever going to be, and I'm like, why are prices going up? Like, we don't have money. Like, that didn't make sense to me. And once I found out what money was, how it
Mhm.
works, and how it can work for you, you
Mhm.
start to realize, hold on, we have some nefarious actors here who have manipulated what money is in order to basically keep people just going good enough in order to
Mhm.
get to the next day. Like, you have a lot of people who live check to check. You have a lot of people who basically have just enough money to not be broke, so to say. Those things are a result of manipulation.
Mhm.
But once you learn what money is, you understand that it should be free for people to transact because it is a part of your expression. Money is an expression of what you want.
Mhm.
And I think that once people start to wake up, which they are now, they're starting to
Mhm.
see, hey, yeah, I should be free to communicate. I mean, that's what, freedom of
Mhm.
speech is, our First Amendment, but I should also be free to transact.
Mhm.
There's no reason why I should not be able to trade this for this and trade this for that, no matter what it is, either barter system or payments. That should be available to me, no matter what, if we have true freedom.
Yeah, and people get people, I think, like, get it really confused. And, you brought up 2008. I was in the same boat as you, man. I guess in college, I was a college kid, and I thought I knew everything. Then, it's crazy when you
Yeah.
fast forward a couple years. You thought you knew everything, and then you just, I know, I did not know, and I literally knew nothing.
Hmm.
And here we are now. I think that we are on a verge of a real estate collapse, and I know a lot of people are saying that, the whole everything goes to zero to Bitcoin. But
Yeah.
I'm not going to say everything's going to go to zero like tomorrow. But
Hmm.
I do think that the money has to go somewhere. So if it
Right.
flows out of real estate, out of gold, bonds, whatever it is, it's got to go to Bitcoin.
Hmm.
And I think this is the year, man. I think this is it. I think this is the start of a bull run.
Right.
You think we're in it right now, or?
Absolutely. I think we are. I think the ETFs was a signal that the last group of people that
Mhm.
want to be involved in Bitcoin are here. Sort of the long term investors, the quote unquote boomers, the investment firms, like they realize now how important it is. But yes, I think 2024 is the start of a massive bull run. I think Michael
Mhm.
Saylor said until 2034. And I just think it's actually beyond that. It's just never going to end because what people don't realize is when we say everything versus Bitcoin goes to zero, what
Mhm.
we mean by that is no, your house is not going to be $0.
Mhm.
Your assets are not going to be $0. What's going to happen is people are going to say, is this asset worth more than Bitcoin when you put it side by
Mhm.
side? And it's going to be, hey, my house is worth $1 million. Okay, that's cool, but my house is worth 50 Bitcoin. And then
Mhm.
people are going to say, okay, well, I would rather use the Bitcoin scale because we understand if that's more valuable, if that commodity or if that business is more valuable than buying Bitcoin, then that must be a very valuable product. And that's why a lot of people say Bitcoin fixes everything. And the ethos of that is that fix the money, fix the world.
Mhm.
Because if you do it against a Bitcoin standard and it's not up to par, then people aren't going to buy it, which basically incentivizes people to create
Mhm.
better products, which incentivizes people to create better art, better music, better food. Everything has to be better because if I say, hey, I want to transact in Sats, the only way you get in my Bitcoin is if you have an incredible product or if I have to use it. And a good example is that is, let's say tomorrow Apple came out, which pretty much everybody has an iPhone, or Android came out and said, hey, you can only buy our phones with Bitcoin. Guess what would happen tomorrow? Everybody would use Bitcoin. They would say, okay, well, we have to ascribe to that because it's a superior product. The thing
Mhm.
is, products that aren't at that level, they would fall to the wayside and nobody would use them, which would in essence open up the market to more creativity,
Mhm.
more innovation. And then you would have in my opinion, a fast forward of people basically saying, let's skip all of the garbage because we don't actually have to need it. We don't actually
Mhm.
have to use it because fiat does that to you. You pay for things with fiat because you have to you have to pay bills, you have to get this, and
Mhm.
a dollar tomorrow is worth less than today, so it's actually incentivized for you to spend it. What Bitcoin does is the opposite. Is hey, if you want me to spend this, we're talking about my future kids and grandkids may not have this money, so this has to be something that's amazing and has to be great. So even the housing, like people say, you will probably have a return to people building more brick houses or
Mhm.
houses that are more sturdy or houses that have more things that go with it or any other market that you want to address. And that's why I think Bitcoin and the crypto market is important because long term, like I said, if I'm going to spend this money, you're going to have a superior product, and that's what we
Mhm.
mean when we say everything goes to zero versus Bitcoin because superior assets went out, and that's been the case for thousands of years now. Even Gary Gensler, the head of the
Mhm.
SEC, he said that in an article. He said the superior money always wins out. It's only one. Only one
Mhm.
superior money wins out always and throughout human history.
He's, bringing up Gary Gensler, he's like so hard for me to figure out, man, because, I know he taught at MIT, bro. Like he knows
Yeah.
crypto. Like I know,
Mhm.
but it's like this double speak he uses. And like
Mhm.
it really infuriates me, man, because it's like they're clearly holding this thing back.
Right.
They're
Mhm.
clearly trying to keep the plebs, whatever you want to call them. They're trying to keep them out of this technology. And like what I think about is, where we at in society. And it's like, are we progressing as a society? Are we becoming, what they call like a type 1 or type 2 society? And basically to be like that next tier society, you need some type of advanced money. And, this concept of like inflation, this concept of, like you said, the money in my bank is worth less tomorrow than it is today. Well, just to flip that whole concept, like, which is, makes sense. Like what American would say, like, no, I want my money to be less valuable tomorrow. Right. So
Right.
like, why is that concept so hard for people to get, that we can create a system where our money doesn't get less valuable, but people just don't seem to get that message for some reason.
Yeah, and it's a message that has to be pushed with education. Also, one good thing that the media has done is they've convinced people that Bitcoin is a scam, or that Bitcoin is just an investment, or that Bitcoin is just something for speculation that you can later then trade in for dollars. When in reality, real Bitcoiners are really basically saying, well, no, we're not selling anything. We are creating a new system. It's not about the money. It's about the fact that we can actually create value because we say so. Because money is nothing more than an agreement between two people of what you can transact. So that's what's happening now. One of the things that stop people from realizing that, like you said with Gary Gensler with the SEC, is we've been programmed to think that these people in authority know what's best. When in reality, they are playing a game just like we are. In your own personal life, you have these, certain politics between you and your coworkers, or, you have family and certain things where you may keep something away, or you may tell people something in order to empower them. Those things you can sort of keep a lever on. But when you look at sort of big agencies like the SEC, the CFTC, they'll withhold information on purpose in order to suppress it so that people can't take advantage of it. Or they'll come out and do something like Elizabeth Warren or others and demonize it and say, hey, the crypto market is terrible. Look at this. They had this big FTX crash or something happened. And that's what people will take as a soundbite and say to themselves, oh yeah, see, I knew it was a scam. I knew it was terrible. Just not realizing that, there are banks that have gone down. We have Silicon Valley. I think we had a bank like 2 days ago that just went down, but nobody stopped using banks. That doesn't mean banking is, I mean, banking is a scam, but it doesn't mean that the entire industry is over. You know what I mean? So I think that they've done a great job of convincing people of that. And when you take the hardest aspects of money and the hardest aspects of technology and put them together, you have people that basically are like, okay, I don't want anything to do with it. In reality, it's not that hard. All you have to realize is what I've always said is do the opposite. Whatever Gary Gensler says, whatever Jim Cramer says on CNBC, whatever CFT, whatever these agencies say, do the opposite and you will be fine. I think I got a 90% hit rate over the last decade because they have their boss, just like you do. Like I said, it's both ways. In your own personal life, they have their boss. They have what they have to say, and they basically have kept it in this gray area where they can't really demonize it because the U.S. owns Bitcoin. We have a Bitcoin wallet, but at the same time, they want to control it. So the best way I think to control it is probably through manipulation in the media, through something like the ETFs, which I personally think is a honeypot, or through demonizing crypto as a whole as saying that these are shadowy coders, or that these are people
North Korean paying for nukes, North Korea money laundering.
They've used almost everything. It's like, oh, we need to clean up the code. It's bad for the energy grid. It's using too much, and we've seen all those attacks. We've taken them head on, and they don't work. So that's where I think they've kind of thrown their hands up with Bitcoin, which is different, I think, from the crypto market. They've thrown their hands up with Bitcoin and said we can't control it, so we're just trying to make money off of it. Well, with crypto, what they've seen is, we can basically demonize it to the point where we can get on TV and make fun of meme coins, or we can make fun of some funky name, and then people will get rid of it altogether. But that couldn't be further from the case. There's so much more innovation that's available that people can learn about if they want to.
Well, just think, Isaiah, I mean, you've been in this a while, and when you brought up Sam Bankman-Fried, FTX, that situation, and even my mom, whenever he's on the TV, she calls Sam Bankman-Fried the Bitcoin guy, and like trying to explain that to my mom. So just I look at the town that I'm in, and I think about, like, say if the town I'm in got into Bitcoin when you did, and they were either investing in Bitcoin, setting up mining operations, just essentially building a Bitcoin infrastructure in the town that I'm in. This place would be a mecca. This place would be one of the nicest small towns on earth. And, you're seeing El Salvador do it. Now, I don't know if you saw, there's a rumor that Qatar's buying it. I
Yeah.
mean, dude, this is inevitable. This
Yeah.
is happening. You brought up the ETFs. Isaiah, you mind if I share a tweet that you made about
Sure.
one of your predictions? And
Sure.
this was actually, Isaiah, this was actually my first introduction to your content. And at first I was kind of like laughing. I'm like, man, who is this guy? But then I was like, oh shit, I got to share this, man. This don't sound good. But I'm gonna read it, man. I just want you to kind of elaborate when I read it. So you tweeted, this is officially the then they fight you era. My predictions: ETFs pump the Bitcoin price to 200K, pricing out most everybody, everyday people mentally. Self-custody demonized in media and politics, forcing action. Executive Order 6102 style confiscation of Bitcoin for national security. Black Swan event to crash the price dramatically, leaving many people to hold underwater ETFs and beg for CBDCs to withdraw. Then you fast forward that prediction. You say, then we win era is 2028 to 2032. A peer-to-peer renaissance in African and Caribbean countries. Demand for self-custody after people realize the ETFs are a honeypot. Bitcoin-focused politicians get elected, and Creed writes an official Bitcoin song, and we all sing it together at the 2032 conference. I could be completely wrong, but I am right. You should be making plans for these type of events now. So, dude, obviously, like, you read that and it sounds crazy, but it's really not, because didn't they try to confiscate gold like one time? Like, didn't they, like, if there is a major crash, and now that Wall Street's involved, we know there's going to be some manipulation. What do you think the Fed's response? Do you think that really will be the Fed's response to say, hey, we can make you whole with the CBDC? Is that how they're going to usher it in?
Yeah, so like I said before, I think a lot of the government agencies, they've thrown their hands up with Bitcoin because they can't defeat it. They can't ban it because it would be like prohibition. What happened with prohibition? The price of alcohol went skyrocket. So they can't ban it. They understand that. They can't get rid of it because it's a global currency. Anybody can use it. So what they've basically done is they've introduced ETFs, and I'll take it back before I talk about Executive Order 6102. The reason why I say with ETFs that it's a honeypot to me is because you're putting cash in and getting cash out. You don't own Bitcoin, meaning you don't own your private keys. And in fact, I got my sweatshirt here, no keys, no cheese, which is a trademark saying that I've, become popular for. But if you don't own the private keys, you don't own Bitcoin. So with an ETF, it gives you the perception that, hey, I've made a lot of money with Bitcoin because I put it in this ETF, the price pumps to holy hell, and I made all this cash. The problem is when you cash out from that ETF, you still don't own Bitcoin at that point. And that's why I think it's a honeypot for one reason. And then for two is if your cash is in an ETF and a CBDC gets approved by Congress, the only way you're going to be able to get that cash out is through a CBDC. So imagine you pump the price to, 200,000, 300,000, whatever people are predicting. And most people are like, I made so much money. I want to take it out. If they have a CBDC in place, what they can basically do is say, hey, the only way you can take it out is with a CBDC, which forces you to use it against your will. You won't have a choice at that point. So that's what I think is a honeypot. Now, with Executive Order 6102, what that is Franklin Delano Roosevelt back in 1933, when they had a recession, and they also were in the middle of they were post World War I, in the middle of going to World War II, they basically put out a decree saying that you need to bring your gold to banks. We will give you a paper certificate that symbolizes the gold that you've given us, and we'll hold it for you. And this is for national security reasons, because people hoarding gold is the reason why our economy tanked. And if you look at the statistics of a recession and how it works, we are in a recession right now. We're not depression yet, but recession, yes, because the definition of a recession is back-to-back quarters of negative GDP growth. We've already had that in 2021. So we're already in a recession as it is. And if they can't come out and say, hey, we're in a recession or a depression, it's our fault. They have to come up with a reason. So they can say, hey, the reason we're in a depression is because all of these Bitcoin holders are hoarding wealth. You see the prices at 200,000. They're hoarding all this wealth. They're keeping it away. And without it, we can't operate as a government. People will fall, I believe, hook, line, and sinker and say, well, the government said it, so I have to listen to it. And they'll say to themselves, hey, we can confiscate your Bitcoin from these ETFs, or we can withhold you from withdrawing it. You need to give it to us, and we'll give you this CBDC in return, or like in 1933, this piece of paper signifying that you own that asset. So that's what I mean when I say Executive Order 6102 seems imminent, because history doesn't repeat itself, but it often rhymes. And we are in the middle of maybe World War III, some of the recession that I was talking about. And if Bitcoin is at the center of it, which it is geopolitically, you have to realize that these things are discussions that are being had by powerful people. And the reason I know is because I've consulted some of these people. I've worked with some of these people, and the way that they think, once you get into the mind of how they think, you'll understand that in order to keep the safe face, to get back in office or to get reelected in whatever position, it can't be their fault. It has to be an exterior or an outside force that did it. And it's like, hey, we got to fight against it. And Bitcoin seems like a perfect scapegoat for that to happen. So that's why that tweet came out. And again, research Executive Order 6102. A lot of people may or may not have heard of it, but these things have happened before. This is nothing new, people. This is something that is basically fundamental to how you clean up your mess as a politician in the face of some sort of transgressions.
Damn, yeah, I had never heard of it. So I read your tweet, and then, when I start thinking more of it, I kind of had the same vision of where we would get to, but I thought the road to that CBDC was going to be the climate narrative, meaning that, Bitcoin's bad for the environment. Isaiah, you're hurting the environment. Give me your Bitcoin, man. Come on, give it all to me. You got to turn it in. Don't you care about, the clouds and the Guatemalan water lizard and all this stuff, So I thought that was the way they were going to go. But now, like the way you described it, you're unfortunately probably gonna be right, because as much as we celebrate, the Bitcoin ETF, yeah, but like now it's like, man, we really opened the Pandora's box to Wall Street, and we see what 2008 and what happened there, and it's like, this is it, man. This is it. But could you kind of tell me more about, when you say the peer-to-peer renaissance, like, so that is to me, the Great Awakening, that is people saying, wait, hold on. We don't need to pay all these fees and overdraft fees and, have intermediaries. And if that happens on that timeline, and then think about it. I'm sure I seen you had posted about Russell Okung. He was offensive tackle, I think, for the Seahawks, and he got paid in Bitcoin. And you even said that, like, at first they laugh at you, and all the headlines were making fun of him. And old Russell Okung's looking pretty smart right now, huh?
Very smart. Good friend of mine. Known him for years now. And with Russell, with his example, one of the best things is seeing that the media will put out information, because there are articles saying that, hey, look at these dumb athletes that put their money in Bitcoin. Look how far underwater they are. And then there's no follow-up. There's no follow-up article saying, oh, well, actually, they're very smart, because they basically doubled their salary. And him and OBJ, Odell Beckham Jr., they were two of the biggest names that were out there. Also, Sean Colkin, he played for the Chargers, good friend of mine. These guys, they all put their money in Bitcoin as far as payment, and they're all basically doubling their salary. And this is only, the early stages. Think about a year or two from now, they may 10x the salary that they accepted, years ago. So they're smart in that regard. And with the peer-to-peer renaissance, what I meant by that is digging sort of into human psychology. Bitcoin, if you read the white paper, it says it in the first line, is a peer-to-peer electronic money system. That is what it was built for. And whenever you have any, social movements or anything that happens, you sort of get away from it once money gets involved, because people get greedy. That is human psychology.
Human nature.
That's just human nature. People get greedy. So we saw the ICO market, the DeFi market, the tokens, and we're seeing it now with ETFs. And what you have to realize with human psychology is that at a certain point, people are going to see, yes, I have put fiat dollars into Bitcoin, but fiat is almost worthless. I don't want fiat dollars back. I want Bitcoin. And ETFs can't give you that. So what people, I believe, are going to start to see is that, hey, I want to be able to transact with Bitcoin. I want to be able to use it for certain things. I want to be able to leverage it to get loans for my business, things like that. And that peer-to-peer renaissance, I believe, is already started in other countries where it's needed. In America, we're kind of spoiled. We have a relatively stable currency. We don't have wild inflation up and down day to day. Kind of like if you saw Egypt, they had like a huge jump. I believe it was 100% in one day in Bitcoin price, because they have wild inflation. We've seen it in Argentina. We've seen it in Venezuela. We've seen it in countries like in Zimbabwe. We've seen it in Nigeria. Nigeria is actually the #1 peer-to-peer Bitcoin traders in the world.
Really?
Because the Naira, their currency, fluctuates so frequently, Bitcoin's volatility doesn't even cross their mind, because it's just like, it's less volatile than the Naira. I would rather transact in Bitcoin. And if
Mhm.
anybody does any research with peer-to-peer industries, they're overwhelmingly countries that have high inflation. So if America enters that space, if we actually see bread is $12 and gas is $8, things start going crazy. People are start saying, I would rather transact peer-to-peer with Bitcoin. I have some sats. They're valuable. They continue to go up because there's buy pressure forever now because of the ETF. That's the psychology I'm thinking of, where I think of a peer-to-peer renaissance in
Mhm.
2028, because that happening makes the supply even smaller with more demand. I can only imagine how much demand will be here in 4 years, but I know for a fact the supply will be cut in half, and we'll
Mhm.
be very close to 98%, I believe, of the supply will be gone, or will be mined at that point. So that mindset, I think, where people will say, hey, I want Bitcoin. Forget this ETF. I'm tired of cash. I got cash out. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like people will realize, hey, I would rather have some Bitcoin on my side, just from a safety standpoint or plan B. And you even have companies like Fidelity and JP Morgan, they're saying, hey, allocate 1%, 5%
Mhm.
of cash because it's an investment. I think
Mhm.
that model is going to get flipped on its head. People are going to start
Mhm.
saying, no, 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 you probably want to put closer to 50% in
Yeah.
Bitcoin, because overall, this may save your family.
Mhm.
Literally, this may be the
Mhm.
thing that saves your family. And we always say, plan B for Bitcoin is the life raft to get off the Titanic. These are the things that, we've sort of memed into existence, but
Mhm.
these things are very real. And I think 2028, 2032 is that era. You have to factor in geopolitics, which is why
Mhm.
I say that, because I think in 2030, we got Agenda 21, where you talk about the sustainability and all of the 15-minute cities and all of the impact of people not being able to transact without some sort of digital oversight.
Mhm.
That will be the fight, so to say, is that,
Mhm.
hey, I don't want digital oversight with this CBDC or with this digital currency. I want to be able to transact with Bitcoin privately and with whoever I want at any time.
Damn, no, you actually just blew my mind, because now I'm thinking about it. I didn't know that, what you said about Zimbabwe.
Yep.
And it's kind of scary to me now, and I'm thinking about is that, like, maybe in order for people to see what you just said and understand it, we need to feel more pain in this country. We
More pain.
need, the grocery prices need to go up. Rent needs to go up for people to essentially be forced. But you brought up, Agenda 2030 and stuff. Well, I look at it like that's the crossroads that we're at, where it's like
Right.
on this crossroads, the 15-minute cities, Agenda 2030, however dystopic you want to go is on this side.
Mm-hmm.
And on the other side is what you just said, the peer-to-peer renaissance, Bitcoin, even like AI being used for the good of humanity.
Mm-hmm.
So that's like the crossroads we're on. But I actually did want to ask you something about AI too, man. What do you think is a bigger technological advancement in society? Is it AI or Bitcoin?
I would say Bitcoin, because the
Mhm.
ability to transact across time and space, we
Mhm.
can now actually transact with other planets if there were other life forms at a certain point.
Mhm.
I think
Mhm.
AI is great because, of course, from a technological standpoint, I think it's great. There are some things I have problems with because it can be manipulated to control
Mhm.
people. However, when you open Pandora's box of AI, honestly, AI is great because it supports Bitcoin. And I'll
Mhm.
tell you what I mean by that is that when you have a technology that allows you to basically take information and process it much faster, you have the
Mhm.
ability to have a Bitcoin industry or network or mining that can also improve rapidly. So if you
Mhm.
think about it in terms of, hey, AI is basically like the mushroom in Mario. You eat the mushroom, like Bitcoin is Mario. You eat the mushroom, you level up. That's what AI will do for Bitcoin. I think it's a good support of that. I think
Mhm.
Bitcoin is bigger because the ability to transact across time and space, I don't think people understand that, how important that is, and the ability to do it with other planets. When people talk about interplanetary travel and all these different things, you're not going to be transacting with gold and with
Mhm.
silver and with paper cash that we printed. It's going to be with a digital currency like Bitcoin. That can be proved, that's provable, and we can actually view on the blockchain. So I think
Mhm.
Bitcoin is the greatest invention of our lifetime. Maybe not of all time, because I think that electricity is still number one, but it's pretty close, and the internet is right there as well. But Bitcoin stands on the shoulders of the internet, and the ability to have peer-to-peer communication is cool, but peer-to-peer transaction is actually how we communicate as well.
Yeah, so I think you're right. I actually, a lot of people they debate this because, just for investing, like what's the better investment? Should I be going all in on AI right now? Should I be going all in on Bitcoin? And I like to use like a sports analogy. You know how people always bring up like, okay, the 92 Bulls versus, like the Golden State Warriors with
Right.
KD, like who would win? And it's a theoretical battle that it really can never happen. So you could just debate it all day back and forth. Well, with Bitcoin versus AI, Elon Musk has even said that AI cannot take down Bitcoin. So
Right.
that's just kind of the simplified way I look at it. I invest in both, but I agree with everything you said, man. And it's really like I'm getting goosebumps right now because it's like, dude, this bear market was brutal, man. Like people lost a bunch of money, dude. Like in this society, and it's like finally, man. We have hope. Like I feel like this is like a weapon. This is good, but we're obviously going into a presidential election. It's like, dude, it's the craziest time to be alive, man.
It is. It's wild. I can't wait to tell my grandkids about this.
Well, think about there's gonna be people. Think about when you say tell your grandkids, there's gonna be people that's gonna have to explain to their grandkids why they didn't buy Bitcoin.
Right.
And that's gonna be some, hey, well, it was a psyop and it was manipulation, and it's gonna be real hard to explain because when you look back, it's just gonna be so obvious. But I guess we gotta feel more pain. But
yeah,
Isaiah,
and let me address that real quick
oh yeah,
because I said that on I did a show on Fox Business a year ago or so, and one of the main things I said was you're gonna have to look your grandkids in the face and say that I didn't take part in the greatest revolution of all time, and you're gonna have to explain that because one thing I was mad about when I got a little older. I remember vividly being angry at my parents saying, "Why didn't you all do anything during the internet age in the '90s when I was a kid? You didn't see Google coming. You didn't see Apple. You didn't see any use case for the internet." And the answer they gave me is when we saw the crash in the 2000s of the internet of internet stocks, we thought the entire marketplace was gone and that it was a scam and that they were trying to basically use the internet against you. And I said, that sounds exactly what people are saying about Bitcoin.
Wow.
Imagine looking back at the bubble of 2017 when we went to 20,000 and 20 years from now, Bitcoin is 10 million and trying to explain to your kids and grandkids like, yeah, I saw it crash back then and I just thought to myself it wasn't real. I mean, you would be laughed out of the room. So just taking that, like I said, history doesn't repeat itself, but it often rhymes. And if you look at the circumstances of what you're doing, you oftentimes can say to yourself, back in the day, if this happened, what would I have been doing? Well, you're doing it now. Whatever you would have done or whatever you're doing now, you would have done it during the internet age when you saw it coming. You saw websites being made. You saw the ability to create apps come. You saw Apple come. You saw, and people just ignored it for years. Like people just were like, well, it's coming, but cool, whatever. With Bitcoin, you can't really ignore it because, like I said, the internet, the reason why I think it's bigger than the internet is because, sure, the internet, you like, all right, that's if I have to use it. And then people, of course, have to use it now. With Bitcoin, you're not going to have a choice. So you really are going to be mad when you have to use Bitcoin or when you have to have some sort of Bitcoin strategy in order to save your wealth. And again, I just don't want people to have have that awkward conversation. If you're sitting there down bad in your 60s and 70s and can barely retire, and your kids are like, so you mean to tell me you watch people talk about Bitcoin for 60 years and you were there early in 2020s and 2010s and you did nothing about it? You didn't buy a million Satoshis, which could have made us millionaires today. A million Satoshis today is $600. You know what I mean? Like that's and imagine having that conversation with your grandkid, like, yeah, I didn't have $600 back in the day to buy a million Satoshis, and that could have been the leverage we needed for you to go to college. Like, I don't want to have that discussion.
No,
anybody else does either. And guilting people with their kids is actually a great way to get people into Bitcoin. Even though it's kind of bad. When you start up, I have a daughter, she's 3 years old, and I have, my brothers, they have kids. One of the funniest things we always say is that that's one way to get us. If you can say, hey, you're doing this and it's affecting your child, people start listening like, you may be I can deal with me not being good, but I can't look them in the face and say I didn't do anything about it.
Yeah, no. And like, my parents, I've explained it to them like that this is like one of the foundation of generational wealth.
Right.
And, my mom's response is always, well, when my social security check pays me in Bitcoin, I'll care about it. I'm like, Mom, that'll never happen. I can assure you that will never happen. But look, y'all, we're running out of time. Isaiah, man, blew my mind. I'm really glad we connected, man. But like, where can people find you at? Anything you want to promote right now? Anything you're working on?
Absolutely. So Bitcoin in Black America, the second edition will be out very soon. And we're looking at a tentative date. So follow me on Twitter at Bitcoin Zay. You can follow me there, as well as bitcoinandblackамerica.com. Working on the website, so it may be down by now, but yes, follow me there. And I have a book tour coming. I also have the Bitcoin Summer Camp, which I do yearly. That will be around as well, because again, I'm focused on the kids, getting the next generation involved. So definitely do that. And if you want more Bitcoin information as far as education, and you don't want to have to read books and podcasts, you want it, on your phone. My app, Wiser, YZER, Bitcoin and financial education there. Learn Bitcoin, earn Bitcoin. As you learn it, each module is 7 modules. You earn Bitcoin for what you learn. You take small quizzes on it, and it's a great way for both kids and adults to learn. So, great way for you to both get into the Bitcoin space as well as learn about it.
Isaiah, man, thank you so much for coming on, bro. I think me and you are going to be talking again real soon. And man, best of luck in this bull market, bro. I do hope to reconnect with you again, maybe in a couple months or something, my man. But
absolutely, my man. Appreciate you,
Kevin. All right, y'all. We are out. Have a good night. Peace.